All right, so picture this. You find yourself suddenly in this really intense and confusing situation. Like you're being accused of something truly awful. And as the evidence piles up against you, you're just struggling to wrap your head around what's happening.
Yeah, and that's precisely the chilling scenario we're diving into today as we unpack Chapter 21 of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
This chapter just throws us right into this really suspenseful moment of it. I mean, Victor Frankenstein is literally standing there before a magistrate,
Yeah.
and the air is so thick with suspicion, it's palpable. A life has been taken brutally, and on the surface, it looks like Victor is our guy.
Oh, absolutely. And the way Shelley just drops us into this whirlwind of accusations and dread is masterful. I mean, talk about captivating.
Right. So in this deep dive, we're going to really dissect this moment. We're going to look at the witness testimonies, those crucial discoveries, and we're going to try and get into Victor's headspace to understand what he's going through emotionally at this point. And believe me, you're in for some seriously dramatic twists and turns.
Definitely some shocking revelations in store.
Okay, so let's start to untangle this web, shall we? We're thrown right into the thick of it with the magistrate receiving this deposition from a fisherman who found the body.
Right, and right off the bat, some details really grab your attention about this initial account.
Oh, yeah, totally. The timing stuck out to me. It was like 10 o'clock at night, pitch black. The moon hadn't even risen yet. And then the location, they weren't even near the main harbor. It was a secluded creek, like a couple of miles away.
You get this instant sense of isolation and secrecy. It's definitely unsettling.
Super unsettling. And then there's the body itself and how it was found. Initially, everyone's thinking drowning, which makes sense given the setting, right? But here's the thing. His clothes are dry and the body's not cold, which kind of throws a wrench in that theory.
Yeah, that immediately suggests that the body hasn't been in the water for very long, or that maybe drowning wasn't the actual cause of death.
Totally. So right away, those little inconsistencies start to make you question everything. And then boom, the real shocker hits you. The cause of death was strangulation.
And the detail about the black marks of fingers on the neck, it just sends chills down your spine.
I know, and you can practically feel the impact of this news on Victor. I mean, it's like this horrible echo of his brother William's murder. And his reaction is instant. His whole body starts trembling. He gets agitated, almost faints. Shelley doesn't hold back on the physical manifestation of his inner turmoil.
Not at all. It's like his past trauma is bleeding into the present situation. And of course, the magistrate picks up on his intense reaction, which really doesn't help Victor's case. It immediately puts him under suspicion.
No kidding. And then as if things couldn't get any worse, we get to the witness testimonies and things really start to look grim for Victor. Daniel Nugent's account in particular is pretty damning.
Absolutely. Nugent recalls seeing a boat with one person in it near the shore right before the fisherman made his discovery. And the kicker is he identifies the boat as the same one Victor arrived in.
So not only is Victor placed at the scene of the crime around the time of the murder, but he was seemingly alone. And then to add fuel to the fire, we have another witness, a woman living near the beach.
Right. She backs up Nugent's statement saying that she saw a boat with a single man pushing off from that exact same spot about an hour before the body was found.
Two separate people placing Victor and his boat at the scene during that critical time frame. It doesn't look good.
It really doesn't, but then something interesting happens. A few of the other testimonies introduce this element of doubt. They mention this strong north wind that was blowing that night, and they suggest that it could have blown Victor's boat back to the same spot after he had landed somewhere else.
That wind detail is key. And they also point out that the body looked like it had been brought there from another location.
So they're trying to figure out why Victor, if he were responsible and didn't know the area that well, would end up landing so close to where the body was left.
It's like they're trying to make sense of these contradictory details. And it does create that sliver of doubt. It at least offers a possible explanation for Victor's presence there, even if it's a bit of a stretch.
And that leads us to Mr. Kirwin's decision to have Victor brought to see the body. Victor was pretty shaken when they described the murder, so Mr. Kirwin decides to take him to see the victim. What do you make of that? Was it standard procedure or more of a gamble on Kirwin's part?
It definitely feels calculated, like Mr. Kirwin's picking up on Victor's distress and wants to see if a direct confrontation will trigger something, a confession or some vital information.
And boy, does it trigger something the moment Victor sees Henry Clerval's body. It's like all his pent-up guilt and torment explodes outward. He cries out, "Have my murderous machinations deprived you also, my dearest Henry, of life?" You can feel the weight of his past actions crashing down on him.
It's a brutal moment, this raw outpouring of self-blame. And it's heartbreaking because you can see that he instantly links this tragedy to William and Justine. It's like he sees himself as this agent of distraction.
Totally. It's this overwhelming realization, and the psychological blow is so severe that he completely breaks down, physically and mentally.
And the fever takes hold, leaving him near death for 2 months. And during those delirious periods, his ravings are really telling, aren't they? He's basically confessing to the murders of William, Justine, and now Clerval.
And the constant cries of terror about the fiend, that's a huge red flag, it gives us this chilling glimpse into the source of his torment.
And here's the thing. Mr. Kirwin understands Victor's native language. So he's the only one who fully grasps what Victor's terrified of the creature. Everyone else just sees a man lost in feverish madness.
It really highlights Victor's isolation. He's surrounded by people, but he's utterly alone with this horrific secret.
Exactly. Even in this near-death state, the truth about the creature is locked inside him, only coming out in these fragmented, desperate words.
So it makes you wonder, is Victor's guilt solely tied to the deaths themselves, or does it go deeper, to the very act of creation that set these events in motion? It's a really complex question of responsibility.
Right. Then, after 2 months, he slowly regains consciousness and finds himself in prison. Talk about a bleak awakening.
The way Shelley describes the prison environment, the cold stone walls, the heavy chains, it emphasizes Victor's total loss of freedom. And that moment when his memory floods back, it's like this crushing realization of the reality he's facing.
It's a lot to take in. And then you have the old nurse. Her remarks are just callous. She's basically saying he'd be better off dead because he killed a gentleman. It's shocking how little empathy she has for him in this vulnerable state.
It's dehumanizing, and it further isolates him in his suffering. His own words, comparing his life to a dream, really capture the surreal, almost nightmarish quality of his existence.
It's like his trauma has warped his sense of reality. But amidst all this darkness, there's a glimmer of hope, surprisingly coming from Mr. Kirwin.
Kirwin. You mean the magistrate who imprisoned him?
Yeah, he shows Victor some unexpected kindness. He makes sure he's moved to a better room, gets him a doctor and a nurse. He's clearly disturbed by Victor's suffering, even though he believes him to be guilty.
It's like he's wrestling with his duty and his basic human compassion. It's this flicker of humanity in an otherwise bleak situation.
Exactly. And then we see Victor actually contemplating confession, driven purely by his despair, which speaks volumes about his mental state. He's broken.
So then, Mr. Kirwin visits Victor with some news. He tries to be comforting, but the whole situation surrounding Victor's arrival is still suspicious. He even calls it a strange misfortune, which seems like a major understatement given the gravity of everything.
Totally, a major understatement. And then he explains how he figured out who Victor was through the letters they found on him and by contacting Victor's father in Geneva. And the fact that it took 2 months for this information to be exchanged just amplifies Victor's isolation and the agonizing weight he had to endure.
And his reaction when he hears this news is just heart-wrenching. Victor has become so accustomed to tragedy that his immediate thought is that someone else has died. He asks, "Tell me what new scene of death has been acted, and whose murder I am now to lament." It's a stark reminder of how loss and violence have come to define his entire world.
Absolutely. And so when Kirwin tells him that his family is fine and that a friend has come to see him, Victor jumps to the worst possible conclusion. He thinks the creature has come to torment him in prison.
His fear and trauma are so deeply ingrained that he can't even imagine a scenario where someone would come to visit him out of genuine care or concern.
His plea to not be confronted with this supposed visitor is heartbreaking. But then there's this incredible shift when he finds out it's actually his father.
It's such a raw, emotional moment. He cries out, "My father!" and immediately starts asking about Elizabeth and Ernest. You can tell where his hurt truly lies.
And Kirwin is genuinely taken aback by Victor's reaction, like maybe he's starting to question his initial judgment.
It's as if he's witnessing genuine human emotion and suffering for the first time, and it softens him a bit.
It's subtle, but it's there. And the reunion with his father, even in that depressing prison setting, must have been so powerful. A small ray of light in all the darkness.
But even with his father there, Victor's despair is still palpable, especially his grief for Clerval. It shows that even though he's reunited with a loved one, the weight of the creature's actions and his own guilt are still crushing him.
It's a powerful reminder of the lasting impact of those actions. And the fact that they can only spend limited time together because of Victor's fragile health just adds to the weight of the situation.
Absolutely. And as Victor starts to physically recover, we see him sinking deeper into this profound melancholy, haunted by the gruesome image of Clerval. His friends are even worried about him having a relapse. That's how precarious his mental state is.
He sees his continued existence as this burden, this obligation to fulfill his self-proclaimed destiny, which he equates with finding and punishing the creature. It's a dark path he's setting himself on.
Then there's the looming assizes, the 3 months he's spent in prison, the grueling journey to the court town. It's all incredibly draining for him, physically and emotionally.
But Mr. Kirwin has been busy, gathering witnesses and building a defense. And in a surprising turn of events, Victor is spared a public trial because the grand jury throws out the case.
Turns out they had solid evidence proving he was in the Orkney Islands when Clerval was murdered. A rock-solid alibi.
He's legally exonerated, free to go, and you'd expect his father to be overjoyed, right? But Victor's reaction is completely different. He feels no joy, no sense of relief. He says the cup of life was poisoned forever. He's free from prison, but he's still trapped.
Trapped by his own guilt and torment. The haunting visions of Henry and the creature haven't stopped. They're constantly there, reminding him of his role in all of this.
It's like he's carrying this invisible prison inside him, a prison of his own making. And when his father tries to cheer him up, talking about their home in Geneva, about Elizabeth and Ernest, it just makes Victor's anguish worse.
He's so deep in despair that even the thought of those he loves brings him pain. But there are these fleeting moments where he longs for home, for Elizabeth, for the familiar landscapes of his childhood.
These glimmers of hope, but they're quickly overshadowed by his despair, and he even contemplates suicide, which is a chilling reminder of how unbearable his existence has become.
He's torn between this yearning for peace and the crushing weight of his reality. It's a brutal internal conflict.
And yet, even in this darkness, there's this sense of duty pulling him back from the brink. He feels compelled to protect his loved ones from the murderer. It's like this primal need to right the wrongs, even if it's driven by a warped sense of responsibility.
That responsibility, however misguided, becomes his driving force. His father, understandably, wants to delay their return, given Victor's condition, but Victor's determination wins out.
And their journey back home becomes this backdrop for Victor's agonizing reflection. He sees his past as this horrifying dream, but the reality of Clerval's death keeps coming back to him. The weight of his creation, it's all-consuming.
And to escape this torment, he becomes increasingly reliant on laudanum to sleep. And even then, his sleep is plagued by nightmares, the creature constantly haunting him.
Even in sleep, there's no escaping the torment. The final image of his father watching over him as he sleeps, it's this stark contrast between the horrors Victor's experiencing internally and those brief moments of peace he finds in sleep.
It's a powerful ending to a really intense chapter. It leaves you with this heavy sense of Victor's suffering, a suffering that runs much deeper than his brief imprisonment.
It's been a roller coaster of a chapter. Victor's accused of murder, then devastated by the realization that his creation is struck again. He goes through this near-death experience, confesses in his delirium, and then is unexpectedly set free.
But even with his freedom, there's no real sense of peace or relief. The emotional toll of these events has been immense. It's driven him into an even deeper state of despair. He's left with this crushing guilt and the horrifying consequences of his actions.
It's a stark reminder that true freedom isn't always about physical confinement. Sometimes the most inescapable prison is the one we create within ourselves. And that brings us to our final question for you today. What does this chapter reveal about the nature of guilt and responsibility? Can we ever truly escape the consequences of our actions, even if we're not held legally accountable? Victor's story is a chilling example of how the weight of guilt and the haunting specter of our past can become our own personal prison, a prison far more inescapable than any walls or bars.
It certainly gives us a lot to ponder, doesn't it? The enduring impact of our choices and the intricate relationship between guilt, responsibility, and the possibility or impossibility of redemption.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
Until then, keep exploring.